very good evening to everyone. Honorable President, ICCR, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, Sir, Director General, ICCR, Shri Kumar Tuhin, Sir, and our keynote speaker, Srimati Jaya Jaitly, Ma'am, and our Deputy Director, Culture, Shri Chinmay Nayak, Sir. Thank you so much for coming, and our esteemed audience. On the occasion of 5th Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Annual Oration, India proudly celebrates World Culture Day and 75 years of independence as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. This is the celebration of India's rich cultural heritage, her glorious traditions, and her spirit of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, that is, the world is one family. And that is truly reflected here on this occasion with so many guests from different countries. Now, I would like to request our dignitaries to kindly come up on the stage for lighting of the lamp ceremony. Today, we are honored that President ICCR, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe Sir, is himself present with us to bless the event. A nationalist social worker at heart, a researcher cum student of political science, and a trainer in democracy by profession, and a parliamentarian by elevation. As a member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe represents the state of Maharashtra since July 2016. Currently, he is also the chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Education, Women, Children and Youth and Sports. Since January 2018, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is the president of Indian Council for Cultural Relations. Sir, we thank you for gracing the occasion today. Our keynote speaker, Srimati Jaya Jaitly Ma'am, is a senior Indian politician, an activist, author, and a renowned Indian handicrafts curator. Ma'am, a very warm welcome to you. Now, I would like to request Dr. Sahasrabuddhe Sir to felicitate Srimati Jaya Jaitly Ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request Director General ICCR, Shri Kumar Tuhin, sir, for the welcome address.
President ICCR, Shri Vinay Sahasrabuddhe ji, keynote speaker for today, Jaya Jaitly ji, ambassadors who are present today and members of Diplomatic Corps, our friends and delegates of Gen Next Democracy Network from 6 countries that are Norway, Peru, Ghana, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Brunei, other distinguished guests and friends. I extend very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Indian Council of Cultural Relations for the 5th Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Annual Oration. Today is 21st May, World Culture Day, and therefore it is apt that in the oration that we organize on this day, we explore the beauty of culture, culture in its magnificence and all the elements that go into it. The topic that has been chosen for today, and that is craft traditions of India as India's soft power, should be seen in that context and background. In fact, any country's civilizational and cultural heritage is very closely linked to its craft and artisans. We have in our museums, and I'm sure that applies to all museums all over the world, we have gone into those museums and we have admired the pottery, the jewelry and other stuff, and that has helped us conjure in our mind the image of the people who lived at that point of time, how they look like, their lives and their livelihoods, etc. Therefore, craft is not only an expression of a nation's culture, but it is also a vehicle for preserving and for conveying the culture from one generation to another generation. When we are thinking about this year's lecture, we very quickly came to the name of our keynote speaker, Jaya Jaitly ji, because we thought only a person of her standing, her knowledge and erudition could do justice to a topic as complex as this today. And therefore, I would like to convey my very sincere gratitude to her for accepting our request and for speaking today. Also, very, very grateful to our president for guiding the process throughout, otherwise because without which we would not have been able to organize this event. I know that the occasion demands that I should not take too much time standing between me and the speaker and you. Therefore, I will close here. And once again, let me extend very, very warm welcome to all of you at this annual oration. Thank you very much for coming. Once again, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Now, I would like to invite our Honorable President, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe, sir, to deliver his presidential remarks.
Distinguished speaker for today's evening, Srimati Jaya Jaitly ji, our DG, Shri Kumar Tuhin, Deputy Director General Chinmay Naik, all other officials of the ICCR, excellencies, ambassadors of various countries, foreign students who are studying under ICCR fellowship schemes here in India, and especially the delegates of the Gen Next Democracy Network program of the ICCR who arrived just about 24 hours before and who are also here representing 6 different democracies. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be welcoming you on the occasion of this World Culture Day. It was in 2018 that the ICCR decided to observe the World Culture Day through institution of an oration every year, an annual oration in the memory of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay. Deen Dayal Upadhyay was a philosopher, an ideologue, a political person, but essentially his philosophy was about emancipation of the last man in the queue, and the philosophy is described as Antyodaya, which means that the most deprived, it's considered as the most deserved when it comes to distribution of fruits of development. So it was in a way a reflection of the thinking of Mahatma Gandhi, and Deen Dayal ji carried forward that legacy and provided us a third way of looking at various issues about economic and social development. 2017 was the centenary year of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay, and therefore in 2018 we decided to start this particular annual oration. The first lecture under this was delivered by Srimati Sushma Swaraj, then our foreign minister, and she spoke about various aspects of soft power, because essentially this lecture deals with various dimensions of India's soft power. The second lecture was delivered by eminent jurist R.C. Lahoti on Sanskrit as instrument of promotion of India's soft power. The third lecture during the pandemic time was delivered virtually by an Italian Ayurveda expert, Dr. Antonio Morandi, on Ayurveda and its relevance in the times of COVID. The fourth lecture, that is 2021, was delivered by Dr. Colleen Taylor Sane, an author of a wonderful book, Feasts and Fasts, The History of Food in India, and that was about insights into India's culinary traditions. And today we have the fifth lecture being delivered by Srimati Jaya Jaitly on craft traditions as India's soft power. This is very important in the context of a significant departure that ICCR decided to have from the traditional view of culture. Generally speaking, culture is considered as only about music, dance, theater, at times even cinema. But these things, like our textile traditions, our handicraft traditions, all these things which are related to basically our folk culture are also a significant part of India's culture. And not just India's culture, but I am seeing delegates from Ghana, for example. And Ghana also has a very wonderful and very strong artisan culture in the rural parts of Ghana, in several African countries. Similarly, in Latin American countries also, we have bright young delegates coming from Peru here, and they also share the same kinds of traditions. So in keeping with the objective of recognizing the enormity of the concept of culture, we decided to have a seminar on textile traditions, and the title was Weaving Relations Through Textile Traditions. It happened in 2020, and our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi was kind enough to give a video message at the beginning of it, in which the First Lady of Korea participated, the Mother Queen of Bhutan was also there, and the Textile Minister of Bangladesh also graced that particular webinar. So taking this particular approach forward, today we are having here the lecture on craft traditions. India's artisans and their skills, their creativity is globally well known. But we would like to have some exchanges in this area as well. For example, as Jayaji was also sharing with me, a few years back she had the occasion of visiting Iran, and she visited Isfahan. And I think that particular city in Iran, which is known for its very rich ceramic pottery culture, why can't we have the exchange of Saharanpur potters to Tehran, to Isfahan, and Isfahan potters coming here and trying to understand what kind of design innovations that are taking shape in Saharanpur. Similarly, take the example of wooden toys or bamboo for that matter. In Southeast Asia, we have huge small units that are into wooden toys and bamboo-related things. And even in India, in Bengal, in Odisha, in Assam, if we are talking about wooden toys, then even in Maharashtra, we have rich traditions, and this kind of an exchange is certainly possible. Similarly about textile, similarly about various herbal products, or let's take the example of musical instruments. You are seeing a lot many musical instruments here, because immediately after the lecture there is going to be a musical performance about folk music in India. And all these folk instruments are going to be presented along with song and everything. So in India, we have a rich tradition of handicraft insofar as musical instruments and their manufacturing is concerned. Especially the string instruments, the acoustic instruments are manufactured only by some handicraft persons and only at very selected places. In fact, the tanpuras and the dilbahar, I mean, these are all string instruments. Some of them are on the verge of extinction, but they are being sold in Europe, and the manufacturers, they are craft persons, especially handicraft artists, they are in great demand over there to visit Europe so that the repair and maintenance related things could be taken care of. And they have approached ICCR whether they could also visit under the ICCR scheme, and we have taken a policy decision that we would definitely support if there is a demand to that effect. So essentially the point that I am trying to make is culture is also about crafts, and therefore we are going to discuss this craft culture or craft traditions in India at soft power. This also makes me realize that with this particular approach, the cultural exchange related things or diplomatic relations related things could be taken to the interiors of India, to the rural heartland of India. It need not be only an urban kind of a concept. Even our rural artisans can definitely visit places and learn about the design, about the access to market, about several other things which are required for promotion of our traditional arts and artisan traditions. I believe that this particular lecture will also enlighten us as to what is the way ahead in this regard, and therefore we could not think of anybody else than Srimati Jaya Jaitly, who is an authority insofar as craft culture in India is concerned. With this, once again, I welcome you all and thank Jaya Jaitly ji for taking out time to be here amongst us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and very truly said that culture is also crafts. And with that, now I would request our keynote speaker, Srimati Jaya Jaitly ma'am, for her keynote address.
Namaskar and hello to everybody. I'm very honored to be here today because, of course, the word for today's lecture is under the name Oration, but I have to confess right at the beginning that I'm actually an activist and a practitioner, and I encourage craftspeople and work with them all my life. So perhaps I will take the approach of a conversationalist. I'd like to have a conversation because craft itself is based in India on storytelling. Every craft has a story. But before I get to the details of that, I would like to also bow my head to Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji. I'm very honored to be part of the commemoration because he was a remarkable person who has not been studied enough or realized enough by our common people and our children. And I wanted to describe to you how, in fact, his thinking and his life has brought us, and particularly me, here to this platform today. He was a small child when he lost his parents, and that meant a life of struggle. He struggled hard. He did not have a silver spoon in his mouth. He worked in the most difficult areas, and that's the way you get to know the people of India. Each village, each person who lives there, everybody who suffers becomes part of your world. Through that suffering it turned out that he was a brilliant scholar, and he took up and excelled in sociology and philosophy. Two very interesting subjects which I discovered that this was what he qualified in, because both are applied to craft. Craft itself is a part of society, it's a part of what is brought out by social groupings, and it's also a philosophical thing, because in India, everything for us has a value, has a meaning, and nothing is purely done as an expression of an individual. It is part of an entire integrated society. His vision encompassed many things. Journalism, in which his firm belief was always tell the truth. In politics, he said, morality is the most important thing. Small-scale industry and economics was what he was most interested in, and that included, therefore, rural livelihoods. Craft today in India is practiced mostly by rural artisans, so fits in nicely with his view of what the world should be and what our country should be all about. This was no different, his view of integrated humanism, of living with the down-to-earth, with the downtrodden people, with rural livelihoods which have the most struggle, even today. He believed, just like Gandhi, along with Gandhi, who thought about this very same issues and believed that India's development of a free nation must be through the rural upwards and not big industry downwards. Along with them, with Gandhiji, a person whose name also you may not have heard, J.C. Kumarappa, he gave Gandhi the vision of rural economics, Gandhi's vision of economics, which again was very much like Deen Dayalji's. Along with Gandhiji and Kumarappa, there was Ananda Kumaraswamy, who was Sri Lankan. I'm mentioning the people who were influenced by this thinking in other countries. Sri Lankan Ananda Kumaraswamy, who deeply studied Indian arts and realized how important art and aesthetics and the artisan was to create any kind of compassionate and moral and decent society. Along with that, you must have heard of E.W. Schumacher, a German. He was so influenced by this form of thinking that he wrote a book called Small is Beautiful. You should all look it up on Google. It's one of the great books which argues how huge conglomerate structures diminish and almost remove the human being from our vision and from our landscape, and how, therefore, appropriate technology for the smallest person to make their life less of a drudgery. And as Gandhi also said, machine should not replace man, it should assist man. This kind of thinking was what Deen Dayalji managed to also strongly believe and convey to a large section of society. So eventually, his message for all of us was to build a strong, prosperous nation built on Indian culture. It was also based, therefore, on cooperation, integration, synthesis, equality, and justice. For us, this is what we define with the word Swadeshi. Swadeshi simply means, for those who are from other countries, our country, ours. We all have, therefore, a pride in whatever is made and comes out of our country. So the basic word you hear very often these days, in competition with products from all over the world, is the word Swadeshi, where the pride for Swadeshi and Swadeshi-made things actually start in the village with rural livelihoods and then move up from the local to the global. These are words that we are hearing often today, but have this deep meaning and deep root and an old history. Now, Deen Dayalji also looked at culture in the way that he was influenced by both philosophy and sociology, as I said. But what exactly is culture? Being Culture Day, I think I need to touch a little bit upon that so that we understand where craft fits in. Culture itself is a combination of social groups. If any of you are students of sociology, it's a study of social groups. And the social groups whose components are language, religion, history, daily life, food, dress, forms of government, arts and crafts, theater, music, symbols and sport. Now, you might wonder, forms of government. Forms of government in India start from the panchayat, zilla parishad, blocks, and then go up to the assembly and then up to parliament. But there are many, many other structures. All of society does not come into this. Many of them, it means just a vote. But society also is, when you bring in sports, there are sports clubs all over the Northeast. Boys get together and they form all kinds of sports clubs, football and other things. In the cities, you have resident welfare associations, which is in a way a simple form of self-government, where they order that building, the people in that building, or groups. Food. Everywhere you move in India, 25 kilometers from where you're first eaten, you will get different flavored food, different recipes, because they use local, seasonal foodstuffs. So the taste will change, and the time that it is eaten and the way it is cooked will change. What you add to the fish in one season to make it sour will not be there in another season. You'll have to find something else to put in it to make it sour. Some will grow in a plant, some underground, some on a tree. This sort of variety in India is as varied in food as it is in language. Today, we have 22 official languages, but there are 300 for which there are scripts, and nearly 800 living languages still spoken in India, of which the most amazing one is where there are only 2 people left in the Andaman speaking it to each other. So if one of them passes away, that language will die, because that person will have no one to speak to. But can you imagine the variety and diversity of a country that has so many languages and 300 scripts? And the interesting reason why we have official languages selected was because from those scripts, at that time, the government of India decided that only those which had printing presses to print the script would be considered as official language. Later on, other reasons have added other languages on. But this is a very interesting thing which has been directed by industrialization. Craftspeople tell me we feel uneducated because we don't know English and we don't know how to use the computer. And in retaliation, bit in anger and irritation, I decided to tell them, look into your own regional languages. See the beauty of each Indian script. And I would certainly recommend all those who are not from India, and even those from India who are used to speaking more English or just their own regional mother tongue, to look at the beauty, the visual beauty of each of our scripts. Each of those scripts has developed because some were originally having to be written on stone, so they became in a certain shape, and some had to be written on palm leaf, so they became of a different shape. There are histories to all our scripts. Some of our scripts are very ancient, like the script of Tamil Nadu has made many changes, but one of the oldest in the country. Our civilization itself is so old that today everything that the craftsperson has learnt, and those who feel they are non-literate, is from the wonderful civilizational treaties we have called the Shilpa Shastras. That's where our craft tradition, you can say, originated in terms of a formation of understanding, of scientific treaty, of how you should go about making something. Each category of craftsperson was taken note of: how to cast a metal pot, how to carve a statue, how to paint a painting, with beautiful thoughts which go into perhaps philosophy, which says that when you make a statuette of a god or a painting, you will make the eye last. Because once you complete everything and you make the eye, the divinity whom you are representing will enter that work that you have done, occupy it through the eyes. That makes everything that a craftsperson does a prayer, a meditation to whatever God they may believe in. Sometimes they just believe in a local deity of which the next village won't know the name. Sometimes they believe in a holy sacred tree. Sometimes we pray to the river. And the beauty of this was because we believed that the entire nature was one. So when you try to understand what our culture is all about, it is the most unifying the human, the animal, the trees, the plants, even the soil. When a dancer comes on the stage, they will first touch the stage and put it to their forehead to respect and honor the soil on which they stand, which gives them the platform on which to dance. So this kind of sacredness is always there in Indian traditions, any tradition. Whichever religion they may follow, there are certain things they will do, must do, or not do. And these are all spiritual thoughts which take the human beyond temples, beyond churches, beyond mosques, into the area where the universe looks at itself as one. That is what is actually meant by what Deen Dayal Upadhyay said about integral humanism. And so India also, apart from these scientific treatises, has a beautiful thing which the Japanese in their food call umami. It's that one ingredient that gives it a special taste, a special kick, which is not the salt and the pepper and the nori or the dashi you may put in it, but is that one little thing that gives it a zing. In the same way, we have many things which are intangible. For instance, while others may have delineated categories, we have something called bhavana. What is bhavana? It's very difficult to find a word in English, but bhavana is your emotional feeling towards your work, your country, the music you are hearing, the architecture of a building. Bhavana is a very beautiful word which expresses a positive emotion. We also have a beautiful thing which craftspeople are taught, which is andaz. Andaz is when you don't measure something. An expert dyer who has a doctorate, an honorary doctorate given to him by a university in England, he does not count the colors he puts in to bring out a fantastic natural dye. He just does it with a sense of how the color must look, how much he can grasp in his hand. And you ask him, how do you measure it? When I put him together with a professor from Thailand, who measured everything with a small weighing scale, and he said, how did you get this color? Asking our craftspeople. He just smiled and said andaz, and he thought he was keeping a secret from him. But he said, no, it's just andaz. Riyaz is another beautiful word. Riyaz means practice, which even the most celebrated artisan is expected to keep doing what he's doing to excel. A wonderful embroiderer who was a master awardee of embroidery in Kashmir, who had a great father who taught him everything. He said, my father used to tell me every morning for 1 hour, I must embroider carrying the needle just across the tip of my nose. It mustn't touch my nose and it mustn't go far. But when you put the needle in the thread and draw it across the cloth onto just across your nose, that is when you get the stitch right. These are wonderful intangible wisdoms that we have in our craft traditions. Swara is another thing. Musical instruments, Vinayji mentioned. Musical instruments are the most fascinating things in India, which today are the most neglected. When a dancer comes on stage, there is a beautiful veena, there is a tampura, there are tablas, even the bells she wears on her feet. All of these are made with a lot of love and care and precision. And when you go to say, Madurai, where the veena is made, the expert there will tell you how he has to, the gourd, the pumpkin in which the round part is made of, he has to tap so many of them to see if they have the right sound. The wood has to be the right weight. He has to then, the instrument is made with so much care by an artist who is not a musician in the sense that he does not perform on the stage, he just makes the instrument. But he has to know that swara. It is not based on measured scales of the West. It is based on what he feels is the tonal quality. A simple bamboo flute player told me the same thing. On the banks of Banaras, he's selling these flutes and playing beautifully. And when I had a conversation with him, he says, each bamboo, I have to see what will be the best for it. And then I know what to play. And he'll play, and if you buy a flute from him, he'll teach you free for 1 hour. Free. And that sound, the tonal quality, the swara, the andaz, is all they actually require. So these are wonderful, intangible heritage that we still have in our society, which is something everyone should share. Everything cannot be precisely measured. Human beings can't. Our emotions can't. The same way, I think, this whole movement of crafts has to move towards a certain kind of non-standardization, which is contribution, which is going in a way that it's no longer just big factories and machines that make people become like machines. But now there is technologies where you don't even have to be there. You click a button from elsewhere, and you can either destroy a whole village or light up a whole city, or do whatever it is where even robots, artificial intelligence comes out near the water body, and the women pick that grass, dye it, and make beautiful baskets. Those baskets, which later on may reach the market, are actually made in all kinds of sizes so that they carry, say, when their daughter's getting married or going to get engaged, they will carry sweets, clothes, jewelry, glass bangles in each of these baskets and go in a procession to the boy's house. In Kutch, in Gujarat, there are many communities who have moved from Central Asia right through a lot of countries, come and settled in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and other places, even in South India, who all have a particular community identity in their dress. Their embroideries, the color of their embroidery, the shape of their motifs, say who they are. That is what makes social groupings into identifications. Every social grouping, like in the Northeast, they make shawls, which they have particular designs for those who have come back from a victory. Earlier it was battles, now it's maybe an election campaign. It could be for honoring the chief of the village. It could be for the bridegroom. It could be for somebody who's passed a fantastic exam. They will greet them in the village with a particular kind of shawl. And that shawl will tell you what is the occasion, what is the identity of the person. This is a kind of language of crafts which makes Indian crafts and Indian craft traditions so very deep. And so each thing has this identity of language, of symbols, even sport. In certain areas, they play certain kind of sport, and in Kerala and other Manipur, you have martial dancing, which is like dance and sport and music. And in Kerala, for instance, when we were colonized, the British people to learn martial arts because they thought they may be just doing it as a sport now, but they may turn against us with their weapons, so it was banned. This is the kind of traditions that have come, gone, survived, revived in India today. Now, when we talk of identification, that's separating social groups. So what integrates them? This is another big exercise for which I want to share some of the programs I've done, which maybe ICCR would love to hear. One is called Krishi and Kala, that is farm and artisan, the farmer and the artisan. In any agricultural society, any rural livelihood, the farmer has always depended on the artisan and the artisan on the farmer. This is what links society. This is what culture and sociology and social grouping is about, that you finally have to get them together. Separateness doesn't mean divisiveness. It means how do you get together? The farmer has success in his harvest. The first people to benefit are the potters, who will make lamps, earthen lamps, to light up because Diwali will follow or some festival will follow. You have festivals for children's toys so that potters can make earthen toys during a season where they have no work. People create, the society creates a festival. That is in Maharashtra, there is such a festival. Many parts of this country, the farmer, after he sows and harvests his wheat, he will take the little chaff and the little parts of it and make a beautiful garland. And just like the edge of this stage is decorated, he will hang up those very pretty little decorative hangings onto the outside of his house. Why? Because he says that when our harvest is over and the fields are empty, what will the birds eat? Then they have nothing to eat. So we're keeping these decorative pieces hung for them. So there is your craft. It is an integral part of what the farmer likes to do. So this is how nature is preserved the other. We had a wonderful program, at least I'd say it's wonderful, but I did this for ICCR. We had a program in February this year called Coalescence. Now that was about bringing together various types of arts and crafts, which included craft, art, textile, aromatics, and recycling. All these are to be made by hand. All these do not destroy the environment. All these require the environment to regenerate. None of them pollute the waters. None of them use plastics which go into cows or into whales in the ocean. All of them treat nature gently. Now, this was the coalescence we thought it's a wonderful Indian tradition that we must bring forward with a lot of pride and with a lot of force in the world. Promotion of soft power, whatever you may wish to call it. I believe that the entire crafts communities, especially in traditional societies anywhere in the world, who use natural organic materials from the earth, from the trees, from the water, from sand, from stone, all these are still living traditions in India. You can see them everywhere. And if these are put together and highlighted and promoted all over the world, we are finding and offering answers. Greta Thunberg may talk at the UN, but here are our voiceless craftspeople showing you the way. This is the kind of education I believe we can give the world, and this is something that it is a strong responsibility for us to do. With our scripts, I created crafts. I asked our craftspeople who feel they are uneducated to use their script in some form, craft form, like weaving or painting or carving, wood inlay, to reproduce some beautiful thought in their own script. And they suddenly realized we could do an exhibition which was in 21 different skills, covering 16 states of India in 14 of the official languages. And we had very successful exhibitions in Egypt, Singapore, at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, where they wanted us to show this exhibition because they were very concerned about the extinction of languages. So how to present and promote it other than, because what do you do if you're just depending on pen and paper and there is a computer only at hand? So this kind of handwork becomes very, very important, even to make our languages survive so that our culture survives. Every language carries words of its own culture, songs of its own culture. We did a very wonderful project, which again I would urge you all to see. It's just a simple thing to remember. The link is .co/crafted in India in lower caps. We did 52 stories, visual, pictorial with text stories for Google Arts and Culture. It is today on a platform which is seen everywhere in the world. It is a platform which shows the best museums in the world with its exhibits close up. And Google commissioned us to do 25 stories, and they liked them so much. 52 crafts of India. We toured many places, filmed the craftspeople, photographed them, and today we have about 11,000 photographs and gave it to Google. Google put it in this way, technologically, which is so amazing that the craftspeople are stupefied. And Google is stupefied about the craft because you press a button and you will get the kind of product you want to see. You press a button of your favorite color, all the photographs which highlight that color are visible. You press a thing saying, what can I see to decorate my home? Click that button. So the technology, the integration of technology and simple craft livelihoods is something that the whole world can today see. And Google told us that this is the largest online exhibition of crafts anywhere in the world. So today, where we may not have exhibition spaces, we have there, you have it online with the technology that is used positively. And finally, we had these workshops because Vinay ji mentioned international interactions. When our Prime Minister went to Iran, I was part of a cultural delegation and was given the work of making a speech at the Firangistan University on the Indian and Iranian crafts, past and future. So I explored all the craftspeople and the work that we have, and I discovered that in Kashmir, the types of looms and the method of weaving is still carried on as per the Persian way, which they were taught when the Mughals were in Kashmir, and in fact enriched the crafts of Kashmir. So carpet weaving, same going on. In Gujarat, we have a form of printing called Ajrak printing. The same thing, in a way, is called kalamkari in Iran. You have calligraphy from the Persian calligraphy was embedded in the miniature painting by Hindu artists in Jaipur, which still continues, but with less script writing and mostly in Devanagari. And the Prime Minister, when he was in Iran, from the stage he highlighted calligraphy. And therefore, I was very excited because my love of script and language and calligraphy, when I presented all the craft activities which were still going on in India, influenced from Persian times, I suggested that a team come of artisans from Iran back to India and work with our artisans. Luckily, I pushed hard enough and it worked. And through the Ministry of Textiles and through the ICCR, 10 people came, and we had printers working with printers, calligraphers working with calligraphers. And at Delhi Heart, which I created, it's become a forum for these kind of places now, these kind of programs. So for 2 weeks, they sat and learned from each other various kinds of art forms. For 14 years, I've been doing that at Delhi Heart, starting the very first in 2004 with Pakistan. Vietnam came forward and said, please promote us also, let us have a cultural exchange. And with that, we had people from Vietnam, we have had from Egypt, Iran, Israel, Thailand. We have had all the South Asian countries, Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan. And it has been such an amazing exercise. Most recently, before COVID, we had Bangladesh, Indonesia. Batik started in Indonesia, India. Ikat weaving, which is part of the sari I'm wearing. That was from India, traveled to Indonesia. And now the Indonesian batik and ikat weavers came, and they suddenly, it became a very interesting conversation. Where did it start first? Did it come from there to here or here to there? And actually, everyone became such friends, there was no competition. Wherever it came from, it was a combined thing. This kind of cultural exchange is the most important thing for soft power, because soft power is actually, as I said, a combination, a very important one, necessary for all countries for climate change, goodwill, better understanding of each other, When a group came from Africa, they went around buying beads and threads and everything from Indian markets. So it is also encouraging trade, benefits economically, and most of all, cultural activity becomes the glue from many sections of society to combine and get together. The harsh effects, therefore, of industrialization and this standardization, which I think all of us as human beings would take pride in our own selves and in our individuality. How can we, each of us, all be the same? We are different. We celebrate our differences. Each of us sitting here looks different from the other. Why is it that mechanized world has made us so standardized that today an exporter said it's very difficult to tell the craftsperson to make the bandhani knots the same as the importer wants it. And I said, you should tell the importer bandhani knots are not the same. They are different, and that's its beauty. So we have a lot to teach the world, I believe, which can be done jointly if we understand the philosophy, the necessary glue, which is culture, which brings us all together and softens the harshness of society, which every thinker has said. And that itself will give crafts a kind of standing, that it goes away from being just some box you buy online or a scarf you will bargain for from a Delhi art shopkeeper, but instead it becomes something that carries a history, a story, a geography, and the culture of those people, how they live, how they work. And when you actually get to see them and talk to them, you realize the value of what you're getting. This can never be replaced by online. That's okay for some part of it, but the craft bazaars that we have, the shopping that you're able to go and meet the makers. At our Google project talks of, is adopted by Delhi Tourism, by Tourism Ministry, which says, travel to these places and bring something back. So development creates tourism. Tourism will create invitation to for people to come. Local crafts develop, and you take something back, which is the best souvenir that you can get. Today in Egypt, souvenirs of Egyptian famous things are made in China. It was very sad to see. We can make so many of our own things, and I think that's the way the world has to get to know each other. So I hope that this evening and many other occasions like this will help to bring crafts into the true place that it deserves through all of you and through many countries and people. Thank you very much.
Every craft has a story. What a beautiful thought, ma'am. Thank you so much. We are honored to have you here. Now, I would like to invite Deputy Director General Culture, Shri Chinmay Naik sir, for vote of thanks.
Respected President ICCR sir, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe ji, Madam Jaya Jaitly ma'am, Kumar Tuhin sir, Deputy Director General of ICCR, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today we heard an exceptional, I would say, conversation, as ma'am said, not exactly an oration, about Indian craft traditions as part of India's soft power. I would first like to thank our President, ICCR. He has been the brainchild behind this series of orations, which, as he mentioned, started in 2018. And COVID or not, we have meticulously sticked to this schedule every year, as you know, on 21st of May. And today, yet again, we've done that. Today is the 5th one, as you know. So I would like to first of all thank him for his, as usual, for his guidance and inspiration for all of us in ICCR to organize this event. And I would also like to highlight, among other things, what he said was that this is not merely an oration. We should take the message from here, and probably it should lead to some kind of a creation. He gave the example of how toys can, be used to forge links with other countries, like he mentioned about Saharanpur and Isfahan in Iran. So I think the message he gave was that these are not merely orations or conversations. We need, all of us could, carry the message with us, and, probably it could lead to some tangible linkages being built later on. Ma'am, Jaya Jaitly, ma'am, we'd like to thank you very much for your brief oration and conversation, as you said, touching upon the multi-dimensional aspects of Indian crafts traditions, many of which were new to me myself, which was replete with very interesting examples and word origins, which I think I'm sure all of you also found very interesting. And as she said, every craft carries a story in itself. So I hope the audience today enjoyed what she shared with us, and all of you would carry that message with you. For the organization of this event, I would like to thank our conference and seminar section, and of course the guidance of our Director General Kumar Tuhin sir for the organization and logistics aspects. Specifically, I would like to thank Kumar Praveen ji and Gaurav Vats and his team for this organization. Now I think we will move on to the next section, where we will probably have a manifestation of what you heard. You heard about Indian craft traditions, but now you will see a performance which embodies a part of that tradition. So once again, I thank you all for joining today's event, and we will move on to the next part. Thank you. I am reminded, of course, we have another aspect of Indian craft and tradition, which is food. So please partake of dinner before you leave. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would request dignitaries to please take their seats. As we conclude our first part of the conference, we now move forward with our cultural evening. With that, I would also like to add that our foreign guests attending today, we have a small token of appreciation, which is entirely herbal under the Make in India initiative. Thank you. As we begin with our cultural performance, I take this opportunity to introduce Folks-wagon, a project about Indian folk music and much more. Madhur Padwal, the founder director of the project, plays more than 75 musical instruments, most of which are rare and authentic Indian and world folk traditional musical instruments. Folks-wagon Live Concert is a musical journey not only through India but parts of world, covering authentic musical instruments from all Indian states and different countries. ICCR welcomes you as we, with our esteemed guests, await to witness this musical night of beautiful sounds and folklore.
Hello, check.
Hello, hello, check.
Hello, check. Good evening, all our respected sir, ma'am, all our friends from different parts. We all call Project Folks-wagon, a journey through Indian folk music and a lot more. A lot more, it's actually a lot more, but the main part is like we are all set to take you on a journey. It's a musical journey to different parts of India and then parts of world. Whereas later we start seeking some blessings of the Lord Ganesha. It's a folk form, it's a Marathi, Maharashtrian folk form. that we call Gan. We'll start with blessings and then all set to take you on the ride, musical ride.
हे महाराज गौरी नंदना महाराज गौरी नंदना महाराज गौरी नंदना अमर वंदना दैत्य कंदना हे मंगल मूर्ती ठेवा कृपा दृष्टी एक दंत दिनावर पूर्ती ठेवा कृपा दृष्टी एक दंत दिनावर पूर्ती हे स्वयंभू शुभदायका हे स्वयंभू शुभदायका हे गणनायका गीत गायका अढळ रे स्फूर्ती भव समुद्र जेणे तरुणी सहज गती तरती भव समुद्र जेणे तरुणी सहज गती तरती हे महाराज गौरी नंदना महाराज गौरी नंदना महाराज गौरी नंदना.
We have Kushal on the Maharashtrian instrument Sambhal.
म्हणवून लागतो चरणी हे गजमुखा हे देव निरंतर स्मरणीच्या मज सुखा दूर करी रे अंतःकरणीचा बाधुका दूर करी रे अंतःकरणीचा बाधुका जय हे रंबलंबोधरा जय हे रंबलंबोधरा स्वरूप सुंदरा स्वामी सहोदरा हे विघ्न निवारी मज रक्षी रक्षी सह कुटुंब सह परिवारी मज रक्षी रक्षी सह कुटुंब सह परिवारी महाराज गौरी नंदना महाराज गौरी नंदना महाराज गौरी नंदना हो.
So after seeking some blessings, we move on and the journey starts. We take you to the state of Bengal in the eastern parts of India. There's a community called the Bauls, and Bauls play various different musical instruments and they by the rivers, beneath the trees, and create this divine environment through their musical instruments, offering praises to the Almighty. They don't usually follow any religion as such, but it's all in the divine power through the music, chants, and different Baul songs. And this will be using different Bengali instruments like the Baul, Dotara, Kamaks, Duggi, and Khol.
अरे पीरिति कंठाले रथा अरे पीरिते कंठाले रथा
वाथा लागले पुरे छारबेना
ओ आठा लागले पोरे छारबे ना गोले माले पीरित कोरोना মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না। আরে পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, আরে পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, আরে পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, ও আঠা লাগলে পরে ছাড়বে না। গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না।
We have Mayuresh on the instrument. Come on. শিব শ্মশানবাসী,
এক পিরিতে শিব শ্মশানবাসী,
আরে এক পিরিতে শিব শ্মশানবাসী,
আরে এক পিরিতে শিব শ্মশানবাসী,
আরে এক পিরিতে রোলা হতো,
ও নদের নিমায় সন্ন্যাসী, গীত গোবিন্দ প্রজাপতি, গীত গোবিন্দ প্রজাপতি,
আরে
গীত গোবিন্দ প্রজাপতি, গীত গোবিন্দ প্রজাপতি, এরা কি ভুল কইছো না। গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না।
পিরিতি রীতি জানো না, পিরিতি রীতি জানো না,
করলে পিরিত হইবে বিপরীত, ওপরে গড়বে যন্ত্রণা,
ঘটবে যন্ত্রণা,
ওপরে গড়বে যন্ত্রণা,
ঘটবে যন্ত্রণা,
ও যেমন জিতে গুড়া পিঁপড়ে পড়লে, ও যেমন জিতে গুড়া পিঁপড়ে পড়লে, ও পিঁপড়ে নড়তে জড়তে পারে না, ও পিঁপড়ে নড়তে জড়তে পারে না। গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না। আরে পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, আরে পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, আরে পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, পিরিতি কাঁঠালে আঠা, ও আঠা লাগলে পরে ছাড়বে না। গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না, গোলে মালে পিরিত করো না।
That was some Baul music. From here we move on further to little northeastern parts of India. In the north is Seven Sisters. From there, in the state of Assam, there's a form, there's a festival called the Festival of Bihu. It's called Bihu Festival. So during the Bihu Festival, Bihu dancers, the ladies, they dance Bihu folk dance. There are dhuliyas who play the Bihu dole, the Assamese Bihu dole. And then there are folk traditional instruments like pepa, gogana, kutuli. So we'll be doing some Bihu folk music for you all next, from the state of Assam. Esni mai jazino e buhai de. Ajay! Esni mai jazino e buhai de. Esni mai koli jahate zere. Vicky on the Bahi. Yeah, Joy! Kiti kori koi lahori maku mari tate nuboi asila. Ami goi ulalo tat lahori bohi bohe tira bari disila. Kate no koroni roson boson hulor matoe hulu tako pek khonai arusi ke nasoni jute goa. Thank you. That's some beautiful folk form from the state of Assam. Little from the northeast, now we move to the mighty Himalayas. It's so cold out there usually most of the time around the year. Let's do some soothing folk from the state of Himachal Pradesh. The next song is a conversation between a mother and a daughter. The daughter asks mother, Ma, how far is Chamba from the way of Shimla, basically? Because I've been there once. I've saw a guy, and I've fallen for him. And I'm not to be blamed for it. It's my eyes that to be blamed for it. Because for seeing someone as beautiful as him. The next one's called Maine Miriye Shimle Di Rahe Chamba Hai Kitni Dur. It's a folk song, a conversation between mother and daughter from the state of Himachal Pradesh in the mighty Himalayas.
शिमले निवसना कसोली निवसना जाना चंबा जाना जरूर कसोली निवसना शिमले निवसना कसोली निवसना चंबा जाना जरूर है चंबा जाना जरूर लाइया मोहब्बता दूर दराजे लाइया मोहब्बता दूर दराजे हो मेरी अखियाँ जरूर है हो मेरी अखियाँ माइये नी मेरी शिमले दी राही माइये नी मेरी शिमले दी राही चंबा कितनी दूर है चंबा कितनी
So that was Maine Miri from Himachal. From here, we're going to do an interesting one, next one. Neighboring surrounding states to the Himachal are Haryana, Punjab states. And there's a beautiful instrument. There are different forms. Again, it's vibrant states. Beautiful different forms, folklores, folk dances, folk musical forms. Next one we're going to do, it's a tune. In Haryana, there are this set of musicians, folk traditional musicians, who use an instrument called bhapang. Bukchu, bhakang. So bhapang, I'm going to So this one here is the bhapang. And similarly like bhapang, in different Indian states, there are instruments which work on the similar principle. It has a string inside, the wooden body covered with skin, and it sounds somewhat like this. So what defines the sound is the shape of the instrument and the string that's used. Then in state of Maharashtra, there's similar instrument called chonkar. The bowls in Bengal use instrument called khamok. In Assam, they use gubbi, basically. So we are gonna do a nice tune. It's in Haryanvi style of that playing, using all these beautiful little instruments here, along with a folk instrument from Maharashtra as a backing rhythm. It's called dimdi. From here, there's a surprise waiting for you all. First, let us take a count. How are you all feeling? Thank you. How are you all, my beautiful friends on this side, feeling? The energy is a little low. We need to get that energy up. The next one's a surprise for you all. So since I mentioned at the start, it's Folks-wagon, a journey through Indian folk music and a lot more. And the lot more part gets interesting. Here, we connect. Music is a universal language. No matter what language you swing in, different parts of music from different parts of the continents, the planet. Next one's a surprise where we try to, let it stay a surprise. We talk to music, yeah? I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blizzard's day, dark cigarette night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty up in the sky, are also on the faces of you beautiful people singing by. I see friends shaking hands, singing, how do you do? They really sing, I love you.
तोरे नैनों ने जादू किया, तोरे नैनों ने जादू किया, और
so pretty up in the skies are also on the faces of you people sitting by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They really say, I love you.
तुमसे नैन लगा के ओ जी बड़ा दुख पाया, मैंने बड़ा दुखाया है, मोरा सब सुख छीन लिया, ओ बेदर्दी सैया, मोरा सब सुख छीन लिया, और ऐसा
are also on the faces of your people sitting by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? Really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They learn much more than we all will ever know. And then I think to myself, what a wonderful Since we've come to this beautiful party, next one is a party time song for everyone. If you feel rising in your seats, you can. Please go on. This we call a chant, we call it Goa plus World. I was going over the Catholic Mountain. A merry captain furled and whose money he was counting. Supposed to produce a pistol and then produce a rapier. John and the legal party on the moon is maturing, gonna do da. They call the daddy-o, they call the daddy-o, the whiskey in the jar. Oh, maturing, gonna do da, yeah. They call the daddy-o, they call the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Sango Katarin kuitu gelele, Sango Katarin kuitu gelele, kau dapat. Hey, Sango Katarin kuitu gelele, Sango Katarin kuitu gelele, dongra gelele re, dongra gelele, dongra gelele re, dongra gelele, dongra sango. Dongra sango magdaru. Sing along, Maya, Maya, yo. Maya, Maya, yo. Maya, Maya, yo. Maya, Maya. Sing along. Maya, Maya, yo. 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 Pundriamo giù mamma, house la duca. Pundriamo giù mamma, house la duca. Chiamato ricciato in alla gaga. Dir mama I know, cali con la liplo. Dir mama I know, cali con la liplo. Chiamato ricciato in alla gaga, casa cailo. Chiamato ricciato in alla gaga, casa cailo. Maya, Maya, yo. 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 Kai borello comlo majang mai makadilelo. Konri melana tetso tomo mori. Hey, kai borello comlo majang mai makadilelo. Konri melana tetso tomo mori. Lo combia pa 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 e combia sho 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 combia pa 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 re combia sho. Combia pa 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 combia sho 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 combia pa 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 re combia. We have Oration on the djembe. Say mama akusa, say mama sa mama akusa, mama say mama akusa. Music again, say mama sa mama akusa, mama say mama akusa, say mama sa mama akusa, mama say mama akusa. Jingle, jingle ba ba ba. Jingle ba ba ba. And listen, say Africa. Say Africa, America, America. Say Africa, say Africa, America, America. Twilly, twilly, dee, twilly, twilly, dee. Let's do some rock and roll here. Twilly, twilly, dee. Twilly, twilly, dee, twilly, twilly. He rocks in the street all day long, hopping down a bobbing yard, singing his song. All the little bodies on the chamber tree, lovely of the robin go tree, 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 rockin' robin, rock, rock, rockin', rockin' robin. No rockin', rockin', but really all rock tonight. Rockin' robin, rock, 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 rockin' robin. Oh, blow rockin' robin, cause we really got to rock tonight. Told him how to do the ball where it was grand. Starting going city and bless my soul. Out of the buzzer in the Oreo. rocks in the street all day long, hopping and bobbing and singing his song. All the little buddies on the cheerful street, laughing up the Robin, go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, rock, 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 rockin' Robin. Oh, rockin', 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 really gonna rock tonight. One more time. Rockin' Robin, rock, 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 rockin' Robin. Rock Thank you. That was Goa plus World. Next is, I would really like to tell you one thing. With folk musicians, traditional musicians across everywhere, there's one thing that's very beautiful about this. The traditional art form, traditional dance forms, or folk music, or folklore, or folk, anything related to basically folks, they all come together of a tradition from a region, from a native place, from a village. They all come together, and usually it's most of these things, these songs, these musical pieces are born when these guys are just jamming randomly, basically. It's not decided, they are just having a time. And usually it's improvisational music, then those instruments from these different regions give a certain sound to that region, and then it's recognized by that. That's why when we play a different instrument from belonging to region, we all might not know that this certain instrument comes from this region, but it certainly creates those energies and vibe from those regions. The next one is an absolutely experimental chunk that we are doing. Since I mentioned folk music is more about improvisational stuff, so we have not practiced any of this thing that we're gonna do next. We're gonna just pick up instruments and jam maybe for a couple of minutes. So we all know what we come up with, and that is how music drives us basically into a form. Yeah, I have the Native American flute here as the. Experimental music from different regions, like these textures, voice textures, Mongling singing, and different parts of voice texture, using textures and putting it to make a form improvisation. And next we come back to little Indian folk energetic forms. In the state of Odisha, There's a form called Singari. Nice. We'll do a small chunk of this energy to get the energies back from the little chiller section.
कोला हानेर बाजो नारे ताई ताई हसी मनो ए मोह की जैसी कुरे पुलर बसो नारे राती सुले गड़ी धनो हे ढांगरी ढंगरा नहीं लागे झुमरा उन्हीं जनो खटो खटा स्वर्गो केला ढांगरी ढंगरा नहीं लागे झुमरा उन्हीं जनो खटो खटा स्वर्गो के तारा मुक्ना चोथी बुरे सांजा सकाळो ए रुमुक चुमुक बाजू ओछे मोर पादर पांजळो ए चुमुक चुमुक ना चोथी बुरे सांजा सकाळो ए रुमुक चुमुक बाजू ओछे मोर पादर पांजळो करी डब सोला पोरे बॉयसी रोपत सुरे छोलिया खुसा के पानो पते रिका नाची आय सुरत रे हे कल के पोइला वन के ओइला देखला बेडू ढेबरी छाती खडर मार कोइला कल के पोइला वन के ओइला देखला बेडू ढेबरी छाती खडर मार कोइला तो जानी सकियो छे मोहनिया डब oche moni adab palo chumuk 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 adure anja sakalo erumuk chumuk baju oche mor padar panjalo chumuk chumuk
Next, we move to the state of Rajasthan. The state of Rajasthan is it's a colorful state, it's a vibrant state. There are so many cultures again in Rajasthan. There are traditional musician families longing years back, like hundreds of years back, like the Langas and Mangniyas. There are bhopas. These bhopas you usually find playing an instrument called Ravanhatta. Ravanhatta is a string instrument and it's believed to be one of the most ancient string instruments from which a lot of string instruments have evolved. Next one's Rajasthani folk. It's an arrangement of Rajasthani folk numbers that we'll be doing using instruments like the Ravanhatta. There's another percussion instrument from Rajasthan called the Kartals, which is just made of 4 different wooden plates, basically.
अपनी छब बनाई के जो मैं पी के पास गई, अपनी छब बनाई के जो मैं पी के पास गई, जो छब देखी पीहू की तो मैं अपनी भूल गई। छाप तिलक सब छीनी रे उसे नैना मिलाई के, छाप तिलक सब छीनी रे तुझसे नैना मिलाई के, 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 छाप तिलक सब तुझसे नैना मिलाई के। This is Kartal, Rajasthani folk instrument. खुसरो निजाम के बल बल जाए, खुसरो निजाम के बल बल जाए, मोहे सुहागन की नीरे नैना मिलाई के, मोहे सुहागन की नीरे नैना मिलाई के, तो से नैना नैना नैना, तो से नैना नैना नैना, तो से नैना
of Rajasthan. No matter what the size of the instruments, each and every instrument has so much part of its own to play in creating magic, healing powers. The music heals our soul, body, everything. Here I have this little instrument that looks like pen. It's a Turkish instrument, it's called sipsi. Next, we're going to play a quick world jam using some of these Middle Eastern instruments and a few South American. Okay, okay. Next we move towards the last one for the evening. It's again all energetic, it's all musty. So the Indian word called musty, which means going crazy. Next one is called Masti. It's a form called Ghazaluma Kawwali. And we are doing this to conclude our set. Once again, we are called Project Folks-wagon, Folks, W-A-G-O-N. W-A-G-O-N, Folks-wagon, a journey through Indian folk music and a lot more. And we are absolutely thankful to ICCR for having us here, share our music. This is not personally mine, his, everyone. This is folk music, traditional music from different Indian states, parts, belonging to different cultures, traditional families of musicians, folk artists. We are just trying to bring that all together and reach it to masses, as many as people as possible, and share this happy vibe, happiness. We are called Folks-wagon. This one's the last one for the evening. Thank you very much for having us.
मैं भी मेरी अदा परस्त हुई, मुझको पीकर शराब मस्त हुई। अहद मस्ती है लोग कहते हैं, अहद मस्ती है लोग कहते हैं। Done. शायद एक बार उजड़ के ना बसे, शायद शायद एक बार उजड़ के ना बसे, शायद एक बार उजड़ के ना बसे, शायद एक बार उजड़ के ना बसे। दिल की बस्ती है, दिल की बस्ती है, लोग कहते हैं दिल की बस्ती है, लोग कहते हैं मैं बरसती है, लोग कहते हैं मैं बरसती है, लोग कहते हैं ऐसे मस्ती है, लोग कहते हैं ऐसे मस्ती है, लोग कहते हैं मस्ती है, 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 मस्ती है,
Folks-wagon, quickly introduce you the band. There we have Madhur on the Indian percussions, South American percussions, Middle Eastern percussions. We have Siddhant Jadhav on the harmonium, pianica, keys. We have Mandar Pilwalkar on the vocals and Indian percussions. We have Kushal Matre on the kahan and backing naut and Indian percussions. We have Vikrant Tare on flute and wind instruments. I am Madhur Padwal, and we are collectively called Project Folks-wagon, a journey through Indian folk music and a lot more. Thank you, ICCR, for having us this evening. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, ma'am, everyone. Thank you very much. You beautiful people, have a great evening. Do check us on Instagram, YouTube. It's called Folks-wagon, so that we can share more of this beautiful music with you all. It's all free, and it heals your soul. Folks-wagon. Thank you, guys.
Well, what a beautiful performance, and I don't think so I would like to say anymore. And we have got a memorable and a perfect evening today. Thank you so much. And now I would like to request Honorable President ICCR Dr. Sahasrabuddhe sir to kindly felicitate Mr. Madhur Padwal with his group. Our delightful cultural evening today, and may I request everyone to kindly join us for dinner.